I'm sure you all know the interesting story of the Mughals and the greatness of the empire, both in terms of its extent and significance. In fact, by the 17th century CE, it was one of the largest empires to have ever existed in India. It covered over 4,000 square kilometers of area and included parts of Afghanistan, as you can see here. We all know that the Mughals were really affluent and economically prosperous. But do we know exactly how much? Well, the annual Mughal growth rate in 1600 CE was 22%, then the second highest in the world. And in 1700 CE, it increased to 24% and it became the highest in the world then. So if this was the situation in 1700 CE, then what happened that by the 1750s, the Mughal Empire lost its power and vigor, and by the end of the 18th century, it almost became a part of history. Aurangzeb, who ruled between 1658 and 1707, is said to have initiated the process of decline in the Mughal Empire. In fact, it was his unwise policies that have been cited as a reason. Now, if you remember that the Mughal Empire was a fairly inclusive one. People from all religious backgrounds, economical and regional backgrounds lived together in this empire, and the policies of this were such that it catered to the needs of everyone. So, when Aurangzeb introduced his extremist policies, like the reintroduction of jizya, which required non-Muslims to pay a tax every time they wanted to go for a pilgrimage, and he decided to overtax the peasants by a huge margin, people were naturally very upset with him. So, many sections of the empire, including the Jats, Sikhs, Marathas, and the Rajputs, rose in revolt. But here we can say that the Mughal Empire was lucky. Why? Because irrespective of his policies, Aurangzeb was a strong and able ruler. He was a good administrator and a great military general. This enabled him to keep his empire united. But problems began with his death in 1707. His sons began to fight among themselves for the Mughal throne, and the empire was headed towards an impending doom. Bahadur Shah I emerged victorious in this war, but both he and his successors were much weaker compared to the earlier Mughal rulers. What happened was, by that time, the Mansabdari system, a land assessment and revenue collection system that was so strategically implemented by Akbar, had failed completely. This made the Mughal emperors lose their control over the local Mansabdars and princes. As a result, the local princes and Mansabdars were able to revolt against the Mughal emperors and declare themselves independent. What thus happened was, the Mughal Empire lost much of its extent, including areas in the east, the west, and the south. So what we see is that, on one hand, when the Mughal emperors were becoming weaker, the nobles of the court were becoming more powerful. They started acting like kingmakers. It was them who decided which prince could become a king and who could not. They used these weak Mughal emperors to fulfill their own interests. The extent of their control went so far that Mughal emperors like Jahandar Shah could rule only for 1 year. And can you say why this is bad? Because 1 year of rule meant the empire lost on its stability. Now, there were basically two sections of the nobles. The Turani nobles, those who were of Turkish origin, and the Irani nobles, those who were of Iranian origin. Both these sections of nobles used to fight among themselves to gain more control over the Mughal court. What do I mean by this? That both the sections of the nobles used to fight and see who could influence the Mughal emperor more, so that the emperor would listen to their every word and they could do whatever they wanted to do in the Mughal court. But why do you think that the nobles were able to do so? Was it that all later Mughals were bad rulers? It can't possibly be true, right? What happened was that when the later Mughals came to the throne, almost all of the Mughal treasury was exhausted. This means that the later Mughals hardly had any money to make arrangements to have a regular check on their nobles and officials. And all they had to do was just to listen to their every word and believe what they said. In fact, it was Shah Jahan who has been blamed for such a condition of the Mughal treasury. Now you might ask that how come anything Shah Jahan did so long back could have an impact now? Let's take an example. You know how your parents always tell you that save a part of your pocket money at least? This is because if you save some part of your pocket money, you can use the same in the future when you want to buy a new video game. But if you spend all of your pocket money now, you'll have nothing left to spend on that video game later. And this is exactly what happened with the Mughal Empire. Shah Jahan's unmeasured expenses on building palaces, tombs, gardens, and official buildings drained a lot of money from the royal treasury. As a result, the later rulers hardly had any money to spend on anything they needed. Just imagine, Shah Jahan spent almost 4.2 crores in 1653, that is 350 years ago, to just build the Taj Mahal. This sum of money is equivalent to 1,500 crores of rupees today. So just think how much money was spent on just building the Taj Mahal. Yes, this is a very beautiful building and is one of the 7 wonders of the world, but it's still a waste of money. And if Shah Jahan spent so much on just building the Taj Mahal, just think how much he spent in total building all other monuments and gardens that you see around Delhi and Agra. So as I said, this caused a huge drain from the Mughal treasury, and the later Mughal rulers hardly had any money to spend on whatever they needed, especially on the maintenance of their army. This meant that they were easily defeated in wars. Now, what do you think happened as a result? All this portrayed a very weak image of the Mughal rulers to the outside world. And what do you think could have happened next? See, at that time, India was still one of the wealthiest nations of the world. And if such a nation becomes weak in all aspects, then naturally it becomes really attractive to foreigners who wanted to invade and loot India. They used this situation as a perfect opportunity to invade India. And this is exactly what happened with the Mughal Empire. During Muhammad Shah's reign, India was invaded by Nadir Shah from Persia in 1739 CE. Muhammad Shah was imprisoned, and Nadir Shah looted almost everything from India, including the peacock throne of Shah Jahan and the Kohinoor diamond. The empire dealt a huge blow. It was barely dealing with this attack and the tense situation it left behind when it was again invaded in 1761, this time from Afghanistan by Ahmed Shah Abdali. This acted as the nail on the coffin, and the empire moved further towards its decline. Let's have a quick memory test now. So what were the reasons for Mughal decline? The first reason were Aurangzeb's policies, those of the reintroduction of jizya and the overtaxation of peasants. Weak successors like Bahadur Shah I and Muhammad Shah. Powerful nobles who started acting like kingmakers and influenced the politics of the Mughal court. the exhausted treasury of the Mughal Empire, which resulted in a lack of stability in the empire, and finally, the two devastating foreign invasions by Nadir Shah and Ahmed Shah Abdali. So all these factors acted together and finally pushed the once mighty Mughal Empire into the pit of decline. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at deltastep.com or download the DeltaStep app to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So, at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So, register for free now.